we just need to get started, and it's okay to then make tweaks later. But so often we can get paralyzed by our perfection. And so instead of being paralyzed by your perfection, make it into progress. And that was such a good point, because then you can move forward. You're going to make some mistakes along the way, but you can always tweak things. If you don't get started, you won't find out what you need to change. The only way to do it is to take that bold step forward and make some progress.
Most people walk into the new year with a wish list. They wish for health, they wish for more money, they wish for peace. But let's be honest, wishes don't build legacies, systems do.
And that is why by February 1st, 80% of those resolutions are dead in the water. You cannot build the right life using the wrong operating system.
If you feel like you've been working harder, but you're not as happy, or you're making more money, but you're losing your peace, you need a new system.
So today we're breaking down 27 lessons that we've learned from building businesses, raising a family, and coaching hundreds of leaders. We're talking about your well-being, your relationships, and your bank account.
We're not just going to give you a list, though. We're going to give you the 4 pillars to bulletproof your year.
So stop wishing, start being.
And here's the bulletproof list for you. So let's dive in.
So we just came off an incredible first leadership retreat of the year. So our Impact Mastermind for faith-based entrepreneurs, we gathered together with a number of us. And one of the things that we did was an incredible leadership panel. We gathered around the room and everyone had the question, what was a wisdom lesson that you learned in the last year that you are taking forward into this new year? And wow, we had a group of seasoned entrepreneurs, men and women, different ages from different walks of life and industries, all bringing their best wisdom lessons from the year. And we're so excited to share them with you.
Right. It was amazing. What an opportunity to be able to hear all the stories from, like you said, different walks of life. And so the very first one and the first pillar is health and well-being. Because if you don't take care of your body, you don't take care of the temple, both internally, externally, physically, mentally, and spiritually, you know what? You're not going to be ready for what life throws at you. So the first one is optimal health. You need to be physically fit to handle whatever life throws at you. And a great example is the $1 Million Racehorse.
Yes.
You know, if you're going to have a $1 Million Racehorse, which is who we are as the business owner, as the leader, we need to take care of that. And if you had a $1 Million Racehorse, would you keep it out in the snow, or would you cover it with a red light blanket? Would you feed it good quality foods, or would you just feed it whatever slop you feed the pigs in that barn? Let's take care of the $1 Million Racehorse. So the first thing is you need to have optimal health. Mm-hmm. And the second one leads into your journey this year.
Yes, physical grit and resilience. You need to be able to, as we talked about, be ready for whatever life throws your way. And I ended up having a significant health challenge last year. Many of you who've been following along know that I almost lost my life. And when those things happen and you feel like, wow, I take such great care of myself, I eat right, I get good sleep, I exercise. And then when you're knocked down anyway with a health challenge, you may think, well, why bother? Why did I do all this work? It isn't worth it. Why should I bother? And it was interesting. After the doctors, the caregivers had saved my life, the specialist came in and I thanked them just how wonderful they all were. I thanked them that I was still here. And the doctor said to me, Janelle, one of the reasons that you are here with us today is because of your physical and mental resilience. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been there. I wouldn't have survived the ordeal that I went through. And that really spoke to me that you have to have the physical fit. You've got to have the resilience and mental resilience. And when you have that, then you're prepared for whatever life throws your way. So it's made me feel, and as we've gone through this together, that our health is even more important.
Right. You can endure the hard things. If you're physically fit, when something hard like that, you had the muscles and the muscle mass to be able to battle it. Mm-hmm. And if you didn't, you know, like you said, you wouldn't necessarily be here. So I think that that's one of the key factors. And then with that, on the whiteboard, we wrote claiming victory. We claim victory, and people are walking in and what's going on. We had Barry Goldstein's music playing. It was a spa. So we changed the whole dynamic of that room. And claiming victory, your body is your own greatest healer. Your body's your own greatest healer. Yep. Don Wood shares that with us with the work that he's done with his mind work. So your body's your own greatest healer.
Yes, it's definitely true. You know, we have a lot of experts that we rely on. When I was going through my health journey, we had wonderful doctors around us. But at the end of the day, you are your own greatest healer. And you've got to really look at and pay attention to what your body is telling you, what your gut is telling you. In my situation with the emergency that we had on hand, my spleen was double the size it was supposed to be. And they were going to take me by ambulance down to UW Hospital in Seattle and remove the spleen because they thought that's where the problem was coming from, that was making everything shut down in my body. And I didn't feel that that is what we should do. It just with everything in me. And so I said, I don't think that's the problem. Let's wait. And we followed the doctor's advice on other healing modalities that we did. And it ended up that my body healed and I didn't have to have my spleen removed because I was listening to my body and I was declaring that we are going to have victory over this. And I really believed it, that we believe that that is a reason that we were able to move forward with what we did.
Right. And I asked the doctor, I said, hey, this isn't like it's a catalytic converter. And if you take it off the car and you run the car and it works, you get to put a new one on. And he looked at me like, you're a strange dude. Yeah, I get that. Which leads us to the masculine and feminine. And that was something that, didn't really think about. I actually, quite frankly, don't give a lot of energy to. But it was a good point because the masculine is grind, grind, grind. And the feminine is to stop and love and care. And we need to have a balance of that. And too often we get into the mode of life and we're just driven by one or the other. It's important that we focus on both.
Exactly. It's interesting because actually one of the guys in the group brought this up. He said, you need to have a healthy balance of feminine and masculine energy. So for all of us, we all have some of each, and we tend to lean one way more than the other, typically, male versus female, but that we need both of those, that yin and yang, to really have that healthy balance in our bodies, mind and spirit.
And that leads us to number 5, which really ties in homeostasis. And I was just talking to a business owner and he was going through 2025. What did he say? 2025 was a rough year for him. And he just decided, you know what? I'm going with my church. I'm going on a mission and I'm going to Kenya. And the homeostasis moment for him was he had his feet on the ground in Africa and he was also on the ground in Africa. He didn't think about work. He didn't think about anything other than helping the kids that he was there to help and the families and to feed them. And the homeostasis for him was being where you are and where you should be at the same time.
And really just resetting your nervous system. So many of us, we don't pay attention to homeostasis and we're not present and understanding that our body, our mind, we may be in fight or flight and we need to have that nervous system balance, that nervous system reset for sure.
That leads us to number 6, which is protect your peace. Peace isn't just silence, but I think you protect your peace really well.
Well, it definitely takes sustainable practices that you do on a regular basis. And actually, one of the women in our group said that that was her main goal for this year ahead, is really protecting her peace. And that comes in all areas. It's in your relationships. It's in how you take care of your health. It's getting optimal sleep. And it just ties in really beautifully with the homeostasis, because if you are settling your nervous system, if you're involved in regular practices of meditating, of being present, of finding ways to calm yourself down when you've been revved up, it's easy for us to be revved up in business, right? With everything that we have going on. So making sure that we've slotted enough time in our world for silence and for quiet and to bring us that peace.
That's good. And then the final one in your health and mental well-being is don't take anything for granted. Don't take anything for granted. We're, quite frankly, pretty good at not taking anything for granted. Every morning I have my coffee and I sit and watch the bald eagles swim and eat birds and fish and just hang out and play or whatever they're doing. And it's like a new day every day. I'm excited about it. And so where we live, we don't take for granted. We don't take our health for granted. And fortunately we didn't, because we were able to you were able to overcome the big challenge. One of the keys is making sure that you don't take anything for granted. And
just being grateful for all of those good things in your life, because we saw there were people in the group that had significant loss in the last year. And it was just a reminder that every day is a gift.
Well, that leads us to pillar number 2, relationships and connection.
Well, this is your zone of genius. You love connecting with people.
All right. If I could do that all day long and get paid, it would be awesome.
So mentors, circle of influence. And as Dan Sullivan says, who are the who's in your life? So let's talk about these.
Right. My favorite thing, or one of my favorite quotes rather, is Jim Rohn's, you are the sum of the 5 people you hang out with. And so very intentional on who I hang out with and when I'm doing that. But what's a contrarian view to that is, and one of the things that somebody said is 1 + 1 is 11. And I loved it. It's like, wow, that's cool. 1 + 1 is 11. You build these relationships, and it's not just you and me, but it's what we've created together to go forward.
Right. And that the right relationship, the outputs are going to be exponential.
Right.
So that's really amazing.
And then number 9 is just kind of the quality, and it ties in quality over quantity. You don't necessarily need, although I disagree, but you don't necessarily need to have a bunch of friends and mentors. You just need that 1 or 2 that really can make a big impact on the world and impact on you.
Yeah. And I think that what people were talking about when the leader who brought this one up is that when we get so busy in our lives of an entrepreneur, that often we're not present with the people in our lives. And I know that as a young single mom, when I was trying to manage my business as it was growing and be a mom at home, that I didn't always do a good job of being present in the lives of my children. I was worrying about things at work. I had so much on my plate. And it is so important to our relationships that we are present, that we have that quality time, that we're really intentional about making these blocks in our calendar so we're not on emails or, attached to our cell phones while we're with our children or while we're spending time with an important friend.
Yeah, it's important to make sure you separate yourself from that and spend the time. But one of the other things that ties with this is you cannot say the right thing to the wrong person. You cannot say the right thing to the wrong person. And I had to pause on this one, I have to admit, because I went, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. But can you say the right thing to the wrong or the wrong thing to the right person? And you can. The inverse works. I can accidentally say something that upsets you. And it's like, well, Graham just opened his mouth again. It's okay. And you smack me upside the head and then we move on. But otherwise, if it's the right person and the wrong person,
Right. And I think to go deeper on that, it's about having the right relationships with people. So back to what Jim Rohn said, you're the average of the 5 people that you're hanging around with. So who are you spending the time with? When you say you can't say the wrong thing to the right person's going to love you regardless. And they are not going to judge you for what you say. They're going to listen to what you say. They're going to expect the best from you. They're going to give you the benefit of the doubt. And they're going to love you enough to call you out on something if you're not behaving appropriately. But if you have, and they're uplifting you, they're challenging you. They want you to be the best version of yourself. But if you're hanging around with the wrong person who's negative, who you have to be so careful with what you say because you don't know how it's going to be taken, you can't be your authentic self, then my friend, that's probably not the person, not the colleague or the client or the friend that you should be spending time with. So it was a really great point. And it made us think, didn't it?
Yeah, no, that was great. Number 10 is critical, I think, and it just kind of sums up some of what we were talking about, is making sure that you surround yourself with the right who's. Surround yourself with the right who's. So these are people that you can delegate to. These are people that you can give tasks to, and making sure that your team is operating at the right level.
Right. And I actually brought this up because I've been in Dan Sullivan's group, Strategic Coach, and he's been a wonderful mentor to me. And he talks about getting the right who's in your life. And when you go through a crisis, which we all have challenges we go through, last year when I was taken out of my business for a while, I needed the right who's around me to be able to step up. And we had a situation where I wasn't able to lead one of our leadership retreats, and you stepped in with our team and put it off beautifully. And so I had the right who's in my life to be able to step in. The business went on. We continued to thrive and put together the retreats that help to benefit leaders. But if you don't have the right who's, it makes the job really difficult. And we learned in some areas of where there were gaps, where there were things that you and I were typically doing, but I was out of commission for a while. You were taking care of me and out of commission for a while. And so things fell through the cracks. So it's a really good lesson, and it's a great time in the new year to be able to really look at who are the who's in your life. What are those things that you're doing that maybe you should be delegating someone else to do? Maybe it's even something you're good at, but it's not the thing you're best at. So why not spend the most time on what you're the best at and give somebody else the opportunity to pick up the ball for those other things? So really evaluate the who's in your life. Where do you maybe not have the right people doing the right things, or where do you have some gaps where you need to hire some additional folks?
Yeah. And I think if you take, 6 months and don't show up to work, you can see the gaps pretty easily.
Yes, exactly. For sure.
Especially my gaps. Number 11, mentorship. And I'm going to read this one because it was so good. You have to learn from the best. We didn't get here alone. We stood on the shoulders of giants. We did not get here alone. We stood here on the shoulder of giants.
Yes.
And we've always sought mentorship. I've looked at this and thought of actually mentorship just recently, talking to a client, and they went, "Oh, I haven't had a mentor in my whole life except for you and Janelle." And I was like, "Oh, that's sad," because you've been, and I looked back and I've had mentors since I was in first grade.
Right. Really important.
And so Zig Ziglar was a mentor of mine. And then I had an opportunity to go work or be coach, Zig Ziglar coach. Talk about an honor and a privilege. I remember another mentor of mine was Mr. G and Mr. Goddard.
Yes.
And actually he just brings tears in my eyes talking about him.
Yeah. Those coaches.
He led me while I was a young banker. And he was wonderful. So those mentors they bring a lot out in you.
No, it's so important. And we interviewed Kevin Harrington and Mark Tim, was it? And they wrote a book on mentorship because they really saw the gap, and that so many people don't have the mentors they need in their lives, that sometimes even you do as a young person, like through a coach or a teacher, we have those mentors that we think of. But for some reason, we think of when we're an adult, maybe we don't need that. Maybe we should have everything figured out now. And when you're a child, you're growing automatically, both in stature and in wisdom. But when you're an adult, you've got to be intentional about that. Growth doesn't come automatically. And you still need to have those mentors and teachers in your lives. It really makes a difference. With the wisdom you gain, then you can be mentoring others as well. Mentorship, so important.
And that leads us to number 12, which is relationships will always pay a higher dividend than the stock market.
Yes, it's definitely true. I think our relationships are everything. When we talk about that in our group, in our mastermind, and bringing people together to be able to have deep connection, to make deep relationships, not only to help them be better in business, but to help them also learn how to be better parents and better spouses. Also so important.
Right. And I talked to Connor Boyack about this probably a month ago. He has the Tuttle Twins, which is a fabulous program for kids to learn about entrepreneurship and finance. And he's really not too high on higher education right now. And I said, I get that. I understand it. However, every dollar I spent was worth it because of the relationships, because they paid me more than the stock market, and they gave me a return on that investment for higher education more than I could have. So I think that that's really critical to make sure that you do build those relationships and take advantage of those.
Right. Invest in relationships that compound. It makes such a difference, because at the end of our life, our businesses aren't going to matter. It's going to be the relationships and who's around us is what's going to matter.
And that leads us to pillar number 3, mindset and personal philosophy. It's your attitude, your gratitude, and the inner game.
So important. Lesson number 13, foundational, and that's the universe has your back. And I think however you look at it, wherever your faith journey is, we believe that there is a creator God that has us, that has this amazing plan for our lives. And to know that all is going to be well, that we can trust in this plan. And no matter what is going on in our life, that we know that someone is out there watching for us, rooting for us, wants us to have this abundant life.
When we're in the messy middle, sometimes we forget that God has our back. And we need to make sure that we have a foundation that we can fall back on, and that we have that strong relationship.
Right. Well, as entrepreneurs, we like to be in control of our lives and control of our own destinies. And there's some times where we really feel out of control. And when you can surrender and just give that over to God, know that God is your back, know that He wants the best for you. That really brings that peace that we talked about earlier, that when you want to protect your peace, having that right relationship there, we can't produce our own peace when we're in the midst of intense struggle. That's when we can give it up to God, and we have that within us that He gives us.
Lesson number 14, life is not win or lose. I disagree. It's win, learn.
What do you mean you disagree?
Oh, if you're not in first place, you're the first loser.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Well, if you stop being afraid of losing, if you not always get your way and you look at everything as a lesson, that is really a great philosophy to have. And I'm with you. I mean, I'm an achiever on the Enneagram. I'm an Enneagram 3. I'm a super achiever. I always want to win. And it's hard to lose, super competitive. But yet, haven't the times that we haven't got where we wanted, when we've failed, if we look at those lessons, aren't those of usually our highest growth in our life? So if you look at it that way, then you can never lose. You never really lose. You just learn. Like John Maxwell, an author, a great coach, has a book that says sometimes you win, sometimes you learn. So I think that's really something to take to heart.
Right. And I think if you're not afraid to lose, you're more dangerous. You can take on more.
Right.
And so I think that if you're not afraid of something, then you can attack it. That's another way of looking at it.
Right. Because we can let our fear, just tapping into that a minute, we can really let our fear get in the way of all of the things that God has called us to do here. That is so true. And so we have to take those bold steps forward, sometimes in fear. And then whatever happens, it was meant for us and it was meant for our good.
Lesson number 15 is let failures become your lessons.
Good.
If you're going to lose and you're going to learn, you might as well let that failure become your lesson.
Right. Yes. And the parts of our impact system, when we do a reflection on the previous year, we always talk about what are those highlights of the year? What are the lowlights of the year? What are the areas of your life that you're not really happy maybe how things turned out, or they didn't turn out as you expected them to, but what have you learned from it? Because it is important to look at the past and gain the lessons learned, because then that can shape a better future. If we just are upset or we have regrets about things that have happened, but we don't actually spend some time with it, ask some questions around it and learn from it, then how do we create the future that we're meant to live? It's important to spend some time with those lessons, even those things that we deem failures.
That's good. Lesson number 16 is choose love over fear.
Boy, this is a big one. This is so hard. We talked a little bit about fear already. And when we talk to our clients, when you talk to entrepreneurs, we often ask, what is the number one negative emotion that gets in your way? And for most of them, it is fear. It truly is fear. Fear of something bad that's going to happen, fear of something not going the way that it's supposed to, fear of loss, fear of failure. We can't operate in that kind of a negative mindset. The good news is that you can't be feeling love and fear at the same time. You can only feel one emotion or the other. So you can learn to release fear when you allow love in.
Release fear. I love that.
Yes.
And I think aren't they opposite on the whole, they kind of tug and pull?
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, that's great. Number 17 is a positive attitude opens doors. So think about it as, the first thing that popped into my mind when I said that was Zig Ziglar, your aptitude defines your altitude.
Oh.
So, and your aptitude defines. So you talk about, if you go and open a door and you're cold calling, I remember as a young banker, and I'm looking for new clients and I'm knocking on doors thinking, okay, if I was crabby or if I was down, I mean, they're already defensive. They're thinking, who's this guy walking in the door? He doesn't have an appointment, most likely, and he's trying to sell me something. So they're defensive. You got to be positive. You got to be happy. You got to be joyful. Making sure to take that into every aspect of your life is critical to a positive, healthy life.
Well, and as you talked about before, Zig Ziglar was a big mentor of yours. This guy, out of 2,000 applications, was 20 leaders chosen to be part of the first Zig Ziglar global coaching program. So congratulations for that. And you're carrying on his legacy, which is super cool.
He was a wonderful man and a wonderful legacy, and his family is terrific. So Tom is a close friend.
Yeah. And then to talk about optimism, this is just really a mindset that's so valuable. And you've heard me talk about it a lot. It is not something that just happens on its own. You have to choose optimism. There are so many times where you're going to be going through something really difficult in your life or your business, and you get up and you don't even want to face the day. But you can reframe that negative mindset that you may wake up to, and you can change to have an optimistic attitude. You can look at what is the good. Search for the good in your life right now. I know a practice that's really helpful for me and others in our group is this gratitude practice every morning when you get up, whether you're feeling in a great space or not a great space. If you focus on what are those things you're really grateful for, what is really good in your life, and not just naming them, but writing them down and then actually feeling those emotions of gratitude. When you feel that emotions of gratitude, appreciation, of love, it raises your energy, it raises your vibration, and you get into the optimistic frame of mind. And isn't that a better way to start your day? So starting your day that way, and then we talked a lot about just capturing those thoughts, being aware of them in the middle of the day. So if you catch yourself and you're not in that positive mindset, that you can then reframe it, you can switch it, those negative thoughts, and get yourself back in a good place.
Lesson number 18, stop waiting to be perfect. Take imperfection and turn it into progress. How many times do you have a new website and it's not quite right? So let's just not put it out there, and let's keep the old website, which is terrible, and a better and more improved one that might not have the right whatever, and not just change it out and then work on it. Taking that imperfect situation and making it progress.
Oh, this is such a problem for leaders today. So many of us are perfectionists and we want it to really look good, whatever we're doing, the project we're working on, the bid we're putting together, the website, as you talked about. But we just need to get started, and it's okay to then make tweaks later. But so often we can get paralyzed by our perfection. And so instead of being paralyzed by your perfection, make it into progress. And that was such a good point, because then you can move forward. You're going to make some mistakes along the way, but you can always tweak things. If you don't get started, you won't find out what you need to change. The only way to do it is to take that bold step forward and make some progress. This leads to number 19, turn off the autopilot. I talk about this in my book, The Success Lie, living on automatic. So often we are not really paying attention to our life, to the most important things of our life. And when we're not, when we're just getting caught up in the day-to-day and this unconscious living, which is so common for so many of us, we will drift. And we will drift in areas of our life that we don't want to be drifting. And if we're not paying attention, what's going to happen is it may take weeks or months or even years, but we're going to wake up someplace where we don't want to be. So we talked about this in our impact system, and the work that we did together is really evaluating what are those areas of your life that are going well, and what are those areas of your life that you are in this automatic living, and instead you want to be living it intentionally.
Lesson number 20 is you look back with honesty and look forward with hope. You want to not live on automatic, but you want to look back and be honest about where you were, what you were doing, and then look forward with hope and making sure that that's in the direction you want to go. I think that that's really critical, because so often, well, we're critical of where we are, and we don't take the time to just make a plan to go forward. It might not be the perfect plan, but at least you're moving forward in a positive, hopeful way.
God, it is. Every year is a new beginning. Every day is a new beginning. Again, it's an opportunity to move forward with hope. And that's really an important mindset to bring into the day, every day.
Okay. Well, we're down to two more in this pillar of mindset. And what are they?
Well, number 21 is be content. And this was really great. And one of our leaders brought this up and just said that I'm always a striver for the next thing, and I want to get here and I want to get here. And she said, really, everything in my life is going really well. I've accomplished so much. My family's doing well. And my goal for this coming year and my word is content. That I want to be content in where I am now. Sure, I want to have goals and aspirations for where I'm going, but I have so much to be grateful for right now. So be content and grateful for where you are. And then followed by number 22 is just enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey and where you are today, realizing that you have these big goals and aspirations. In our group this year, we're working on the impossible goal, which really isn't impossible. It's just something that you may not have the resources or the capabilities to do now, but you can get there. But enjoy every aspect of it. Enjoy the journey along the way, because that's really what this life is it's this journey. And if we're constantly looking at, well, I'm going to be happy when I sell this house, or when I get this new contract, or when I marry the love of my life. And instead, we're not appreciating where we are. So really enjoying life and playing that journey of life.
So play the game of life, which should be fun too.
Absolutely.
Left that out.
So important.
Pillar 4, action and momentum. Control, choices, and starting now. Sir Isaac Newton did all the science on it. Momentum, once something in motion is always in motion, or it's way easier, right? So if we take action and momentum and we start building on that, then we can, as business owners, continue to grow.
Yeah. So 23 is a big one for business owners. Control the source of revenue. Now, what do we mean by that?
Well, that's a good one. Too often we're reliant on others, or we don't know what people are doing. As a business owner, we need to know what our team is doing, who they're working with, what relationships we have. And as an owner, making sure that we're partnering with the right partners.
Right.
That if they change their mind, they change their direction, they go out of business,
right.
They decide they don't like you anymore, you need to make sure that that doesn't impact your revenue.
Mm-hmm. Almost the over delegating, where you still, as the president, you have to have your hands-on strategy of the company and not give that away to somebody else.
That's good. Mm-hmm. Hold on to the strategy of the revenue and know where everything's coming from. And that's key.
Number 24, consistency is key. Now, this is really an important one. I enjoyed hearing from one of our leaders about this, and she talked about how she had built her company by being really clear on the habits and actions that she needed to be taking every single day. And we know that what gets measured gets done. And if we can have this big goal that we're going after, if we reverse engineer it, we know that that takes us down to action items that we need to be doing this quarter, this month, this week, today. So what are those consistent action items that you're doing every single day? And she was able to share that by doing this, and she, runs in social media circles, that she was able to be posting content that was valuable, consistent every day, and grew her list to be a ginormous one. So it's that consistency every day, whatever those small habits are, just making sure that you're always doing that.
Right. It kind of reminds me of BJ's Fogg. So the tiny habits.
Yes.
And that's doing that. So that's important and hard to do.
Right.
Number 25 is create space. And you're really good at it. I'm not as good at it. And one of the things you think about is a tree. And if it's just overgrown and the limbs, you got to cut it back so it can be healthy. And we are the same. As a business owner, we're taking on too many things, and we need to cut that branch off that isn't really helping us.
Right. This is such an important one, and we're really not very good at it as entrepreneurs. We tend to just keep stacking more and more and more into our life. But if we could actually do less in this next year and just be very intentional about the things that we are doing, taking everything else away, really knowing what those main priorities are, be looking at your calendar and what you've given yourself to do and your priorities. Do you have too many priorities that you're working on? What are some of those things that just need to be going to the back burner so that you can really focus on those most important things? And it's just taking the time to create the space. And as you do that, you were talking about how you need to reshape sometimes, as that you need to prune. You need to prune these things out of your life. And there's also things that are probably you're still doing or that you're still a part of that you need to let go, that it's time to really release. And if you don't take time to evaluate it, you're not going to know. So create that space to evaluate your life on a regular basis and to clean up your calendar.
One of our clients, I didn't tell you this story, but I met with him this week, and he said that he came home and his wife had Frozen's Let It Go blaring in the house intentionally for his entrance. So she had strategized to just remind him he needs to let it go. And it was pretty funny and cute.
That's a good spouse.
She really wanted him to really feel the love and understand that it was time for him just to let go. And lesson number 26, if you want something, be it. Don't just chase it and being, but go and be it. Act it right now. Kind of like the millionaire habits. Act like a millionaire now.
That's good. And the person who brought this up, I mean, just such good points. If you want to have a relationship in your life and you don't have that now, be the person that's going to attract what you love like a magnet. If you want to be a parent, then be that person now that's going to attract those good things in your life. So just step into it now. How would the successful entrepreneur or the loving mom or the amazing wife or husband, how would they be? How would they live? What things would they do in their life?
Yeah. And that back to Mr. G, he really put a focus on be it, meaning how do you dress? Making sure you showed up 20 minutes early and that that was on time. And he made a focus on if his team, if his company twisted around, he started putting on a 3-piece suit. If people started to get too casual, he went the other extreme just to be it and show the team what it looked like. And I think that was important.
And then a bonus lesson, number 27, is take the action and take the action now.
So start now. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. It's not going to be perfect. You may not get it right. You may have to adjust it and change, but just go do it. Start now. Take all of these lessons we've shared and take action on them.
What are 2 or 3 that stood out to you today as you listened to these lessons? What were your aha moments, your breakthrough moments? And you thought, yes, that is a lesson that I need to learn too. You don't have to relearn it. You can take these lessons from the leaders that have put this together and take these wisdom nuggets and apply them to your own life now.
Right. And up here, over there, somewhere, we're going to have some links to our other videos, especially, the Living on Automatic, which ties directly to this. Go click on those and keep learning and diving in. And if you want to learn more about us, reach us at legacy-leader.com. We will personally reach back out and we'd love to connect with you here. Hit subscribe as well, because you know what? That really helps us, even as silly as that metric is.
We want to get the word out to as many leaders that they can be living intentional, impactful lives. And if you have interest in being in a room with other leaders where you can have deep connections, where you can take the mask down, where you don't have to be wearing the heavy mantle that you do when you are leading your team, that you can be your true, authentic self and share what you're going through, your wins, your opportunities, your challenges, and have a group that's a group of trusted advisors where iron sharpens iron and you can have others that sharpen you to be a better entrepreneur, a better leader, and a better human.
Well, we just gave you the blueprint, the 4 pillars: health, mindset, relationships, and action. And don't let this list overwhelm you. Pick 2 or 3, take some action from it. And if you feel like, wow, I want this year to be my best year yet, reach out to us because we can help. And find us in the link below. We'll be able to have a one-on-one call to find out if you are a right fit for our mastermind.
Yes, if you want to be in an iron sharpens iron environment with other successful faith based leaders who want to make an impact in the world and not sacrifice what's most important to them, have a life balance where they're focused on health and their faith and family, and all of that is deeply rooted and flourishing. We would love to talk with you. So reach out, schedule a call.